Oh, no.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host, Alex, and with me this week I've got Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, look, can't complain. After a thrilling fight back to earn a point against Swansea.
Yeah, I feel like I've done it twice this season now. I did it against Wrexham so for context, this was the international game for the midnight fixtures. So I thought, oh, that's okay. I'll get up in the morning, watch it on a replay, no spoilers, wasn't going to check the chat, just, watch it as it happens. And I got to, I want to say 96 minutes, 20 of the 97 minutes. And I thought, that's got to be it. I'll message him and say, disappointing that we weren't able to get anything out of it. And I see the messages from, I think it was Mitch saying, missed that, what happened? And Mike saying buzzing. And I was like, oh, hang on, something happens here. So I think it's the second time I've done it after the Wrexham game, but a welcome one in that sense. I guess as having watched it live, how did you feel? It felt like we were sort of pushing quite hard in that second half, and the equaliser was quite deserved.
Yeah, look, I think it really was a game of two halves. I thought the first half we were atrocious. Probably somewhere in terms of levels between the Blackburn and Bristol sort of performances. Not quite as dire as Blackburn, but still not great. We just really couldn't seem to get a foothold. We couldn't seem to string more than one or two passes together up until we conceded. It was almost like Liam Rosenia football again, where we concede and then suddenly we'd go and start to attack and play with some intensity. So, I think the first half, we were pretty bad for the most part. They scored, and then it was only a few minutes later. It wasn't long really at all. And then Giles whips in a delicious ball, which, to be fair, he put in quite a few really nice balls throughout the game. I thought he was one of the standout performers. Played really, really well. Defended really well as well, I thought, for the most part. And it was dangerous at the other end as well. So he had a really good game. Whips that ball in. McBurney with the sliding in. Nicking it from pretty much from the keeper's fingertips just to roll it in. And I thought we were probably lucky to go in at the break 1-0. I thought Swansea were clearly the better side in the first half, and probably to go in 1-0 down would have been disappointing, but would have been fair. And then I really think the second half was almost completely different. I thought we were much, much better, much more in control, seemed to be building play a lot better, attacking more frequently, and the flip side of the Swansea was challenging us less, and yet they were the ones who sort of broke the lines, got away from I think might have been Lundstrom.
Oh, sorry.
And then and then sort of they get this a weak little chip in that Hughes plays the striker onside. The initial camera angle, I thought, no, it's got to be off here, and then you see the replay, and Hughes is 2 meters probably at least behind the rest of the line, and you go,
just ball watching.
What has he done? What has he done there? It was really bad, but and it was hard. I felt it was really hard to gauge. It felt like it could have been one of those games that we've seen so many times over the last 12, maybe 24 months, where we push and we push and we push, but we just can't seem to break them down. But I think that the real positive is that we push and push, and yes, it was last gasp, but we did manage to break through and get that goal. And I guess not again, but the other thing was like Swansea hadn't conceded a goal from open play, and
I was going to say that.
two.
Yeah.
We scored two, so there were lots of really positive signs, positive things to come out of that game. I think the subs when they came on as well, like Slater and Darla, Mo,
Destan
as well. I think he almost scored on his first touch with a header. If he could have just got it to one of the corners, he would have been instant City hero. But I think those subs when they came on were great, and I think they really did change the game. So I think that was really good, really positive from them.
And I feel like it's what we've said before, that this season at least, and I think we probably said it when we're talking about the Oxford game, that yes, we'll probably lose plenty of games as we've sort of done so far, but the fact that Jurkovic has it set up in a way that we actually do keep creating chances, keep asking that question, putting them on the back foot. To your point, it's what I was going to say, is that they hadn't conceded an open play goal before this game. They've conceded 2 against us in it. Quality from McBurney for that first goal. As much as it's a great ball from Giles, for McBurney to get his foot to it and get it past the keeper. And then you think Egan has those 2 good chances later on. Like he has that earlier chance where he sort of swings at it and it just goes wide, and then he makes up for it with the winner. The equaliser. Felt like a winner. But you're right. Like the subs, like Ndala looked bright and energetic off the bench. I thought Destan really put up a hand to say that perhaps he's a good foil for McBurney. Offered a lot more than Joseph did. To be brutally honest, I actually didn't realize I forgot that Joseph was starting until about half an hour in. He just didn't really impact the game at all. And obviously Slater as well, really getting in there in those final few minutes. So I thought it was a really encouraging display against the Swansea side, who've actually started the season really well. So, a point out of this one not to be frowned at. And I sort of said to Mike last week, I think had we come away from Blackburn, Bristol City, Swansea with 0 points, it would have been a real concern given that some of the strong teams we've got to face over the next 5 or 6 games. So to get a point out of this one, I thought was really good.
Yeah, I think we're a point a game at the moment, which is, I think, it's a steady start to the season. It's not, we're not blowing the championship away, but we're certainly not, lagging like we were, say, this time last season. So, it's okay. We're picking up points, and I think that's important. It's something that we can build on and continue to improve and to pick up, 3 points more regularly here and there. But I think, really encouraging display from everyone, especially the second half. And I think it puts some real question marks in Djukurovic's mind about, who should be starting and who should be coming off the bench.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Ian's got the comment here talking about, strong performances from everyone. I mean, I know Ian here sort of saying he thought it was Hughes' fault, but I've since heard it was Joseph's man, and he left him. But I think for me, the criticism for Hughes is more the fact that he's just so far behind the rest of the defensive line. And I say that as sort of a recent convert as a centre-back, but he just seems to be sort of caught ball watching in that situation. And even if it's somebody else's man, if you're stepping up in line with the rest of your defence, then it just means that you're not actually playing that player on side, because if you're in line with the defense, then that you're forcing that player up. And then at least if the ball does come through to that player in that situation, you've got your defenders around you to help you deal with that ball, rather than being left isolated, playing him on side. Because the same as you, when he scored the goal, and I just thought instantly, he's got to be offside. Like, it's like sort of waiting for the flag to go up, and then it just didn't go up, and he went off and celebrated, and you're just like, how was he onside in that situation? So that's probably the one, bad mark of the game for me. And he's just sort of had one or two of these a game recently. So he had the bad touch against Bristol City as well. But I'm sort of hoping he sort of comes out of it and can step back up to the player that he's been for us.
Yeah, look, I think with sort of like there's a lot of people that you can attribute blame to in that the passage of play that leads to the goal, but at the end of the day, I think I'm sort of aligned with your thinking that realistically that's probably prevented, or like it becomes a very easy offside call if Hughes is up in the line. He makes it easy for the striker to be so deep in the box. If he's up in the line, the striker either has to sort of push the boundaries of being offside, or he's just way further back and becomes an easy claim for Panda, for example, to just step out to the 6 yard and claim it. So, but yeah, look, I think, first half is a bit of about the first 35 minutes is just about a bit of a write-off, and you take the last 60 minutes and go, you know what, a pretty encouraging display.
Yeah, and I thought the other player we hadn't touched on is Amir. I thought looked quite promising on debut. I would say like it wasn't a standout sort of 10 out of 10 performance from him, but I thought him coming into that midfield role next to Lundstrom, I think gives Lundstrom a bit of a chop out at times. I thought he was quite neat and tidy on the ball, good composure. So he certainly doesn't look out of place in that sense. So I think that kind of gives that confidence that he will be a good option for us in that midfield rotation, which is what we've really needed.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout as well. I think even JB, when he came on, had some nice touches. Fought for the ball pretty well. So I think with those two additions, now you've got sort of 4 fighting for those 2 sort of number 8 spots, which I think and all have shown with Crooks as well, like showing they're all capable to play those positions and contribute. So I think again that puts us in a good position. It means you also don't have to rush Crooks sort of back into the side, where probably 3 weeks ago we were going, well, as soon as his timeline's up, he's got to be back in. At the moment, you can go, well, we can take it easy, make sure that this doesn't become a recurring thing, because we know that he's got a bit of a history with injury trouble. So we want to try and avoid that if we can. So I think we've got the depth to sort of manage some of those situations pretty well at the moment.
Well, speaking about depth, I mean, Palmer didn't even come on either. So certainly there's a lot of depth across the pitch now. And Balumi coming back to fitness, Miller coming back to fitness as well. It's only going to make us stronger in that sense. Who were your votes for this one?
All right. So 3 points I went to Giles. I just thought, as I touched on before, the nice early ball that McBurney scores off is sensational. Just pure quality, plus a few other really good involvements, and just really worked hard. Look, just what I wanted to see out of him consistently. So I've seen a couple of those performances this season already. So I'm actually quite pleased and quite excited to see him sort of maintain and push on even a little bit throughout the season. To McBurney, I mean, as you say, that to get the finish on that cross is probably just as difficult as the cross was itself. And he missed another one by a shoelace as well later on. So I thought harassed and harried their defensive line a lot, did a lot of work that probably goes unnoticed.
He had one play in particular where you just think it's the definition of, if you go down, it's a foul. If you hold your feet, you're not going to get the sympathy.
He was being the Swansea defender had hands all over his shirt and pulling him back. And
he did so well to keep his feet, but you're sort of like, surely you get rewarded with the foul there. Like, yes, you've tried to play it to an advantage and then pull it back.
Yeah, that's right, because he plays it through to Akintola, who doesn't get there or play. Doesn't get there. He has a shitty first touch, and the ref side obviously either decided it wasn't a foul to begin with, or that counts as advantage. And I'd probably challenge him on both, whichever decision, whatever his thought process was. But look, and to be honest, I struggled to decide on who I was going to give a point to, because I've got about 4 or 5 names. I go, these guys could all be willing, and just based on the conversation, I could probably add a couple more as well. But I've decided to go to Egan, the late goal scorer. It'd be rough on us to overlook a centre back who scored a match winner or match deciding sort of goal to not at least give him a point. So a point to Egan.
Well, yeah, it's the same. It's ended up being the same 3 as me. I gave Giles the 3 votes as well. So similar thinking as you in that one. The ball in from McBurney, I thought his defending and all-round play were brilliant as well, deserving of the 3 votes. It's interesting, like you say, he's had a few really good performances to start the season, some poorer ones as well. So I guess for him, it's about finding that consistency and starting to sort of stitch a few really good performances together. Egan, I went for the 2. I guess, the equalising goal last minute, I kind of just edged him ahead of McBurney for that. But you're sort of convincing me a little bit with that McBurney discussion that, the all-round play for him as well as the goal, I think is one of the big factors for him. I think it's sort of crazy when you think like we've now finally got a goal scoring striker, but it's not just the fact that he's a goal scoring striker, it's his all-round play as well, because he does drop deep, he does bring other players into the game, as we're sort of touching on, like, you know, he's got that good physicality, he's got the strength, he holds off players, and I think just having a player who can do that and doesn't just, you know, fall, like even to be fair, like someone like a Delap was a really good striker for us, but would go down so easily to try and win free kicks. Whereas McBurney, I think with his strength actually opens up the play a whole lot, because by holding off the defender and being able to play the ball out, it sort of, you know, can affect the game in a much more positive way. So yeah, I gave him the one vote, but I thought he had a terrific game as well, up against his old club. Yeah, well, we'll move on then. We'll talk Southampton. So game this weekend. It's a bit of an interesting one, to be honest, because you sort of think on the first glance at it, you know, and it probably is true, like Southampton are a tough opponent. It's going to be a tough game, welcoming them to the MKM. But they haven't had the best start at the start to the season. They've only got the one win, which was against Wrexham in like the very last minute. They had the 0-0 draw with Portsmouth just on the weekend gone. It's not, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to the Swansea game, where you're sort of looking at competing styles, where Southampton seem very much a defence first, sort of set up shop, grind out points and grind out results. It's interesting, because I guess for me, it's like we had the attacking mindset of City come up against Swansea, and we sort of won out by having a 2-2 high scoring 2-2 draw. It sort of bodes well, I think, for the fact that we could play Southampton, go head to head with them, and if not come away with the win, at least maybe come away with the point out of it.
Yeah, look, I think if you'd asked me at halftime of the game on the weekend how I thought this, you know, upcoming fixture was going to go, I probably would have been pretty pessimistic. But I think the second half of the last game, I know I've said it a bunch, but I just think it was a really, really promising, positive display. And I think that sort of, if we can carry that over, then I think we really can compete with any team in the division. I know we've had our off games, but I just think, you know, the little international break, the little bit of extra time working with the manager, I think it's all sort of been in our favour, and I'm pretty optimistic that we can come away with at least a point. But I'm pretty confident that we can sort of sneak away with all 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, Ian's saying here 0-0, very defensive game from both sides. I'd agree, except I just don't know if we've got it in us. I don't think we can keep a clean sheet at the moment. I mean, I think maybe when Semi's back fit, I mean, we saw the, you know, 0-0 with Coventry on the opening day. I just think very similar to the Swansea game, where I think if we were to fall behind, that will then trigger us to go out and score a goal. I just can't see a situation where we can sit at 0-0 and feel comfortable. It's look, it will be very interesting. You know, it could well be a 0-0. I watched a bit of the Portsmouth Southampton game on the weekend, and Portsmouth, in a similar way to us, were very attacking, had Southampton on the back foot a lot of the time, had them really rattled, had a lot of really good opportunities, but Southampton sort of held them at bay. I could see something relatively similar for us. It's then just a question of, can we defensively hold up against them, and can Hughes have a great game? Can Egan have another great game? I mean, you know, knock on wood, and I guess Famo's back fit now, which helps. But to be getting so many starts out of Egan, I think, has been a bit of a blessing, because I don't think when we signed him, we would have sort of expected him to be playing as many 90 minutes as he has been. But I think it's going to be really fascinating to see the styles and, I guess, the mindset of the managers for this one, because I imagine as Southampton, they'd be looking at this and going, we have to win it. We haven't had a great start to the season. We've got to attack. But whether they feel they can do it, because they just haven't scored many goals to start the season and haven't got many results out of it.
Yeah, look, I don't. Yeah, it'll be a good game. I was just looking at the some of the stats over the last few games, just out of interest. And you know, we're getting close to 10 shots. Like, you know, we're getting plenty. We're actually every game, where even the games, even like against Blackburn and stuff, we had plenty of shots. So I can't see us sitting for a 0-0,
especially at home.
And I think, like, the other thing is, like, just to touch back on the Swansea game just very briefly, their keeper was outstanding. There were probably 3 or 4 just absolutely sensational saves.
Was it McBurney was it McBurney or was it someone had that header that was going away from the keeper and he somehow gets across to it? Yeah. There
were a handful of really, really good saves that, on another day we actually probably win that, 3 or 4-2, to be honest. So always just have to hope that I mean, we always say this, it feels like every time we come up against a team, their keepers seem to have like just outstanding games. We watch them all season, they're crap, and then they play us and they pull out all the stops. But I think I can't see it being 0. I can't see us. If we didn't score, I'd probably be a bit surprised, just because I honestly just think unless we just don't turn up at all, like we'll just be attacking just by the nature of the players that we have in our squad, players who want to get forward and they want to attack and they want to make stuff happen. So I just can't see it really being a really dour defensive sort of a game of cat and mouse.
I mean, you look at the 2 home games so far this season. We had the 3-2 win over Oxford, and then the 3-0 loss to Blackburn. But I sort of give that as a pass because of the sickness bug that went through the camp. So you sort of think that Oxford game's probably more indicative of how we'll play at home. On the front foot early, got a couple of early goals and really looked quite dominant. It's going to be interesting as well what we do with the lineup. I was really skeptical of Destin before we signed him, when we signed him. Looking at his stats, looking at sort of, I guess, even just the context of where he'd come from, and whether it's just sort of a favour from one of Ajun's pals over in Turkey giving us a player sort of thing. But he did look really strong. He looked really. I mean, I don't know if it's just the adrenaline of a debut or what it might have been, but if he was in the starting lineup, I actually would be quite excited to see how he and McBurney go together. I think his talking about McBurney's ability to drop deep and play balls, I thought Destin with his back to goal was really good as well at sort of holding up the play, playing in the wingers. I think he showed enough for me that I'd be considering him for a start. Was there anyone else or any other thoughts you had on the lineup?
I guess my only one is really about is Balumi. If whether he's sort of at that point, and I think it's probably still a bit too soon for him to start, but that'd be the only one where I'd go.
What's he done with his hair? I don't. He's had a haircut. He looks completely different.
Bring back the curls, I say. They were great last year. But look, I think I think Akintola toiled hard against Swansea, but it didn't really come off. Not much really came off for him, unfortunately, on the weekend. But I think realistically, I guess on the flip side is the other sort of wing situation where Joseph was kind of on the wing but not really on the wing, because I heard the Jukirovic say something about they had this plan that Joseph was going to be on the wing, but when we're defending, he was going to sit in behind McBurney or something, so that McBurney was supposed to be able to hold it up and drop, and Joseph was going to be the sort of the player to sort of try and break the line or something. He wasn't expected to really drop. I don't know, it was a bit weird, but I don't know, it was as you say, didn't really do a lot in all that time on the park, and Ndala came on and it was pretty crucial actually in setting up that second goal.
That's the thing. It's one of those ones where you kind of go, he looked really good off the bench, so do we start him? But then he doesn't look as good when we start him. So I'm like, is it almost better having him off the bench when the opposition's tired and he can run at the tired defence?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he looked as good off the bench on the weekend as he did earlier in the season when he was starting games. I thought his involvement involvements were positive. He was tidy on the ball, worked hard to sort of keep, retain the ball and retain possession. I think the question mark over him as a starter is about, is he going to get his goals and assists specifically? I feel like he's probably more likely, even though Joseph has the goal, I feel like Ndala's probably more likely, in my eyes, to actually chip in, in a more useful way. He seems like he can actually do more, with the ball at feet in that attacking third. As much as Joseph has got the goal, he sort of was Johnny on the spot for that. Just sort of had to really, there's a point to be made that if you're not in the spot, then you don't get the goal. But he just, I don't know. I'm my patience, I guess, with Carl Joseph, and I'm probably a little bit more generous than some of the other boys in our chat. Is really starting to get well. He's had his chances. He's had time to bed in. He's had the off season. He's had his full preseason, and I'm kind of now getting to a point. Well, you got to start producing something, or and I'm sort of getting to that point now, especially when you go, well, Millar's going to be back soon. And I say soon, I mean probably a month or something, another month or so. But and then you're going to have Millar, Ndala, Balumi, Akintola, who are all performing better than Joseph.
Yeah,
and Destan, Gelhardt, like McBurney, all there's 8 players who are probably all going to be ahead of Joseph unless he starts pulling something out. So,
I was just going to say, I mean, I've been a big fan of his as well. Well, supporter of his, I guess is probably a better way to phrase it. That I really want him to succeed, and he's a busy player. He presses well. He's really effective at times in that sort of role. But I honestly, because I looked at the lineup before I went to sleep, and so I wasn't checking the lineup when I was watching in the replay, and just genuinely forgot that he was playing because that was how little he was getting into the play for that first sort of 30 or 40 minutes. So it is kind of telling when that sort of realization hits you that the player hasn't really had that much impact on the game. And so I think, it's chalk and cheese with when Ndala and Destan both came on and were both really involved in the game. It coincided with us going for it a little bit more. And it's a bit chicken or the egg. Is it that Joseph was stifling us, or was it just that we flicked the switch in the second half? It's hard to say. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, Ndala or Destan or maybe Balumi. Maybe Balumi getting a start on the weekend would be pretty exciting. But we'll wrap things up with we sort of already talked about score predictions, but what are you feeling overall?
I was going to go like a nice tidy 1-0, but it's planted the seed that we're not keeping clean sheets. So maybe I'll go a 2-1. I'll go a 2-1 win.
2-1 win, yeah. I'm thinking maybe a 1-1. I just think Southampton probably score first. We'll push hard, probably get an equaliser sort of somewhere in the second half. But I just don't see them having the capacity to score more than a goal at the moment. So maybe we could win it 2-1. Yeah, maybe you're right. But I'll be a bit more pessimistic. I'll say 1-1.
Another 95th minute winner or something.
Yeah, it would be nice. It's crazy. Actually. I saw there was like a whole bunch of equalisers on the weekend that were like 95th, 96th minutes. So bit of a crazy weekend for the EFL. But we'll leave things there. So thank you for joining me here, Dan. It's a bit of a late one, but we got through it. And thank you everyone for listening in. It's been great. We had, I think at one point, 8 or 9 people watching along live, which is always awesome to see. Always enjoy the comments in the chat as well. So get involved. Like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, or if you're listening on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. It always helps. But until next time, come on, City.